Hey guys, Technomentary here with the video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be comparing the iPhone 10 with the iPhone 10R, the battle of the X's, to kind of give you guys a breakdown between the hardware, the software, and overall performance between these two devices in 2021 running on iOS 14. We're going to give you the breakdown, everything you need to know, whether you're upgrading from one to another or looking to upgrade from an older generation of iPhone or deciding which one you should buy. Everything you need to know in this video, we're going to break that down for you guys. But before we go ahead and get started, if you guys are new to our channel and haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, as we do a lot of tech news, reviews, and giveaways. Also, if you guys are in the market for one of these iPhones or any of the newer iPhones out there in the market and looking to get a discounted iPhone, make sure you guys check out the link in the description section. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with today's review. So the iPhone 10R and the iPhone 10, there's a lot of similarities and a lot of differences that you want to know between these two devices. First thing first is the release date of these phones. The iPhone 10 in my hand, as you can see here, was released in 2017 of November, and this is the first time Apple released the all-screen iPhone from moving from the iPhone 8. There was no iPhone 9, and the iPhone 10 was a special edition because it was the 10th year of iPhone for Apple. It was a big flagship phone and surprised everyone with this all-screen OLED display that it has introduced. The iPhone 10R here, on the other hand, was released a year later, and it's surprising how the iPhone 10 came into play, because before even the 10 there was a 10s and the 10s Max, which was released in the similar fashion as the 10, but the R was sneaked in a month and a half after the release of the S, and it started at a price point which was slightly different from the iPhone 10 and the 10s. It started at the $749 for the base 64 model, where the iPhone X started at the $999 model, so almost $250 difference. And why is that difference? Well, there's a couple things we'll talk throughout the video. First thing, of course, is the display quality, and the other thing is the camera built to it and the hardware in these devices. And to talk about these two phones, we want to first look at the build of these two phones, which we'll see right here in the back of these two phones. Of course, if you look at both of these phones at a glance, you'll notice the iPhone 10R slightly bigger body compared to the iPhone 10. That's because the iPhone 10R does have a 6.1 inch display compared to the iPhone 10, which is a 5.8, so 0.3 inch bigger diagonal display to the R. That's why it is a bigger body phone, hence why it's a little bit heavier than the iPhone 10 here, slightly heavier, maybe such difference that you might not even notice if you're holding it in your hand. About the difference that you'll notice is the iPhone 10R is 194 grams or 6.84 ounces compared to the iPhone 10, which is around 174 grams or 6.14, so almost half an ounce heavier on the R and around 20 grams or so difference in terms of the technical difference. But to the regular hand, it doesn't feel much in terms of these two phones. And the other thing we want to talk about between these two phones is the build of the body of these phones. So both of the phones, as you can see, does have glass back and glass front here, so no difference in terms of glass between it, but the build of the body of these two phones are slightly different material. The iPhone 10 has that stainless the surgical grade stainless body, whereas the iPhone 10R has aerospace grade aluminum body, and that's a noticeable difference, which you'll see if you take a look at it closely, is that the 10 here does have that more shinier bezel versus the iPhone 10R, which has that matte bezel to it. And the other comparison on these two phones you'll notice is the dual camera on the iPhone 10 versus the single on the iPhone 10R, just from a physical difference. And in the section of camera, we'll talk a little bit more what that means for the camera of these phones. Of course, the next thing we want to talk about is the display of these phones, and we talked about it briefly, is that both of them does have different technology built to it. Hence why the iPhone 10 is more expensive than the R, is that the iPhone 10 has a 5.8 diagonal all-screen OLED. That's a super retina HD display compared to the iPhone 10R, which has a 6.1 diagonal all-screen LCD display with IPS technology. That's liquid retina HD display. And because of the OLED, why Apple claims that it costs them a lot more to produce in terms of their cost, you get slight advantages with the OLED over the LCD IPS technology. One advantage of the OLED display is that the resolution on the iPhone 10 is a 2436 by 1125 pixel at 458 compared to the R, which is only around 1792 by 828 pixel resolution at 326 ppi. And the other aspect of OLED versus the IPS LCD display is that contrast ratio, which to the naked eye it might not make a difference, but that pretty much 1400 to 1 on the R versus 1,000,000 to 1 on the X. So huge difference in terms of contrast ratio. Other things such as true tone, wide color display are about the same. Even the max nit brightness on these devices, you're able to get up to 625 nit of max brightness on both of these devices. One thing about the difference between these display is the touch display on these devices. The one thing you'll notice is that the R has the haptic touch, which was the previous generation of phones did, but the iPhone 10 has that 3D touch to it. So if you touch something, it gives you more that 3D feel on the actual OLED. Thanks to that OLED, it allows you to do sort of that 3D touch feel to it. And let's move on to another aspect that's important, is the storage configuration on these devices that you can get. So both of the phones, you're able to actually get at the 64 base model, which seems to be another base configuration both of these phones have. But if you're looking for more storage, the iPhone 10 goes up to 256 gig, but the iPhone 10R is only limited to the 128 gig storage, so you're not able to get that 256 gig of storage. Is a big aspect of these phones that you're looking into. The other thing we want to talk about is the battery life on these two phones. There's a difference between the battery life. So the iPhone 10R, because of a bigger body, it's able to hold a bigger battery, and bigger battery means more playback time, video playback time, which is a good comparison of the battery here. So the iPhone 10 here that we have is able to do 13 hours of video playback, but the iPhone 10R here is able to do 16 hours of video playback, almost 3-hour difference in terms of the video playback between these two devices. And the last aspect of hardware, we want to talk about these devices because it's really important when it comes to things like gaming, heavy gaming, and heavy intensive workload or multitasking, is the chip. So the iPhone 10 has an A11 chip, which is the first generation of neural engine, compared to the R, which has an upgraded A12 chip with the second generation of a neural engine to it. So of course, because the iPhone 10R was released a year later, Apple upgraded the neural engine on the device itself. And let's go talk about the last piece of hardware we briefly touched, is the dual versus the single lens on the iPhone camera here. What kind of advantage do you get? Well, a couple advantage between that is, first thing is your photography mode. So between the photography mode, you'll notice the iPhone 10R is only limited to studio and contour light, where the iPhone 10 has contour light, stage light mono, a lot more to it as well. There's also the square feature of it, which isn't available on the iPhone 10R. But besides that, in terms of video recording. Both of the phones does exceptional job in terms of video recording. One thing you'll notice between the video recording is you're able to record from 720 HD all the way to 4K at 60 frames per second on both of the devices. No issues there. Let's move on to the next piece of the comparison, which is the software. And that's an important part about these two phones, because both of the phones are actually able to upgrade to iOS 14. No issues there. As you can see, we upgraded both of these phones to iOS 14, and they run exceptionally well on iOS 14. They were meant to run on iOS 14 without any issues. All of our popular apps we were able to download on both of these devices without really any issues. As you see here, we downloaded pretty much all the popular apps you're using, whether you're using it for social media, entertainment, or your productivity, your finance, or your shopping. All of that will work, no issues, and we haven't seen any issues with it. Of course, both of the phones does have sort of different life terms in terms of how long they will be supported. Because the iPhone XR was released a year later in 2018, it'll probably get at least 3 years or so major software update versus the iPhone X, which was released in 2017, and it's almost coming to almost 4 years, and it might get maybe another 2 more years of iOS updates. So iOS update, the iPhone XR will definitely get more out of it. So if you're looking for a phone to outlast, the iPhone XR might be your option to go to. And that brings us to the final segment of our video, is which one should you get in 2021? Well, let's break it down, which one you might get and why. So the iPhone, as you can see here, why might you get the iPhone XR or iPhone XR? Well, a couple of reasons. The iPhone XR has a 8.3 more battery power because it has a 2942 mAh versus the iPhone X, which has around 2616 mAh. It has more power. As we saw, the battery life on the XR is better. It gives you almost 3 hours more video playback compared to the iPhone X. It's more optimized. The other aspect on the iPhone XR is actually because of the second generation of Neural Engine, it has a 6% faster CPU speed to it. And the other one thing we talked about, although it doesn't have the OLED, it does give you 5% more screen size resolution if that's something you care about. And aside that, it also has 3 nanometer smaller semiconductor to it, which, internals of it, we haven't really discussed it. It's not something you might want to consider. And then, of course, the last aspect is because it will get 1 more year out of iOS update. If you're looking for a phone longer term, the iPhone XR would be your option. Why might you get the iPhone X over the iPhone XR? Well, a couple of reasons there as well. The iPhone X does have almost a 40% higher pixel density to it, that 458 ppi versus that 326 on the R gives that resolution thanks to the OLED display. It also has that 1.85 higher resolution to it. We mentioned that it has a 1125 by 2436 resolution compared to 828 by 1792 pixels. So more pixel density and resolution on the iPhone X. Of course, the camera zoom, we didn't mention that because of the second telephoto camera, the iPhone X does give you 2 times more the zoom in your main camera. And the other aspect to it, the iPhone X is actually lighter to it. It's almost 20 grams lighter, so more to that as well. So between these two devices, that's the breakdown of it. If we were looking to compare these two phones, if you don't care about having a phone with more, just a little bit faster and such, you might be looking at the iPhone X. Nonetheless, both of these, though, I said, are phenomenal in 2021. You can probably get it around the same price if you're buying it pre-owned. That's why if you guys want to check out the link in the description to the discounted phone, check that out. Also, hopefully this video is helpful for you, anyone looking to buy either of the devices. We want to hear from you guys. If you guys are currently using devices or looking to upgrade it, which one would you upgrade to? Or if you guys using any of these devices, which one would you would you recommend? Leave a comment in the comment section. Thanks for watching, guys, and if this video is helpful, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. See you guys next time.